Hello everyone and welcome back to Game 2 of this series from the Global Gamers Invitational, the final round of this qualifier, TTOne against Dimaga. TTOne kind of humiliated in the previous match, so I'm sure he's out for blood here against Dimaga. Has to win or be eliminated, so it really sucks to try and open with a Nexus before Gateway opening and get 10 pooled, but I'm sure TTOne will be playing more conservatively this time around and hopefully bring this to a best of 3 series. So Dimaga so far not going for a 10 pull, it seems. Well, it's too early to tell. He does have, he does have the Overlord, so not 10 pulling, that is sensible. Xel'Naga Caverns, a very big map. TT1 also appears not to be hoarding hundreds and hundreds of minerals. I do want to once again thank those sponsors, specifically Hello everyone and welcome back to another match from the Global Gamers Invitational Tournament. This game between TT1, our Protoss player, and Dimaga, our blue Zerg. We are here on Xel'Naga Caverns. Game 1 going to Dimaga. TT1 a little ambitious, going with his Nexus before Gateway's play, expecting Dimaga to fast expand. Dimaga, however, 10 pools, and 10 pool beats fast Nexus expansion every time, and Dimaga takes a quick 5-minute win. I do want to once again thank those sponsors: iFixit, SCVs, For the Real World, The Handsome Nerd, and Esports United, all three of them generously donating to the cash pool and to the prize pack. So they're bringing out some pretty big names, and I'm sure Dimaga and TT1 would both love to make it to the finals. And they have to win this game in order to do so. TT1 facing elimination has to make something happen, which is why he's playing more standard conservative play. Going to see a Gateway at 12 or 13, almost for certain. No silly Nexuses, way too early. And Dimaga appears playing some more economic build. This is typical of Xel'Naga Caverns. It's a very big map, bigger than it looks, especially because of you get interrupted moving across the map, having to go around this silly little cave with crackling energies and such. No one ever stares at these during the game because it's dead space, but this is actually pretty cool, which is so typical of Blizzard. You know, to heck with balancing the game, let's make it look really cool. First scout moving out with the probe, and the Overlord also moving. We'll get there eventually, but by then Stalker's probably on the way, and Overlord camping here by the expansion. This always screams I'm about to expand if a Zerg player is hanging out with an Overlord right on top of his expansion. And this probe, double back for a second just to make sure, did I see that for sure? Yes, you did see it. No expansion yet. Spawning pool on the way. Extractor already finished. And Dimaga is going to expand very soon, I imagine. TT1 checks once again. Did I miss the drone? No, I did not. Let's go take another look, see what's going on. And he does see exactly what he saw before. Spawning pool is up, and no doubt there will be some speedlings on the way. Once we have 100 gas, going to get that metabolic boost, and then probably going to bring those drones off the gas, and then power some minerals and get that expansion up and running. Meanwhile, the Protoss base, I can tell from here, playing standard. He has this one gateway, getting the cyber core, and then we'll see if he goes with a 4-gate push or some sort of expansion tech, or void rays, or immortals. Hard to tell at this point in time. The probe is forced to retreat. The Zerglings have spawned. Won't be able to see when this expansion, if this expansion goes up, but I suspect we'll be seeing it any moment now. 300 minerals are saved. There should be a probe on the probe. It should be a drone on the way, but instead we're seeing lair tech prior to the expansion. So Overlord does arrive, sees the wall off. Cyber core, 1 gateway, 2nd gateway is on the way. Protoss income doing very well. He's been chrono boosting his probes, already at 22, so a slight income advantage, able to support multiple gateways. Only 3 gateways so far. Haven't seen the 4th gateway or tech. Looks like he might be planning to expand. He is checking, I don't know what he's checking for. Sneaky expansions, I imagine, before checking here. And Dimaga not being sneaky with his expansions. Instead, he is taking a gamble, going straight for that lair tech, and grabbing a Roach Warren. So I don't know what build he's planning to go for, but it will be interesting to see. This is a bit innovative. Still no expansion, which is unusual. But I imagine Dimaga feeling like he can take a little bit of a risk here and there, see if he can try something unusual against his opponent, catch him off guard, given that he has a nice 1-game lead. It's possible he has underestimated his opponent, but I don't think that's the case. Here comes the expansion, finally down. The probe's going to see it right away, just as it goes up, and we'll know that his opponent won't have that expansion up. Gives him time to prepare for the attack. The Queen is ready to intervene, almost gets this probe, but unfortunately it gets inside, sees the Roach Warren, sees the lair tech, And that is everything TT1 needed to see. That is a fantastic, fantastic scout. Meanwhile, in the Protoss base, it is still 3 gateways. We are not seeing warp gate tech. I should have picked up on that earlier. No warp gate tech, so both players playing a little bit unusual. No expansion, only 3 gates, no warp gate, but he is planning to at least move out. Looks like planning to expand. Pretty safe to do in this instance. Dimaga getting that roach speed right away, producing some roaches, getting his creep spread nicely. That hatchery is almost up. So both players sort of conservative in their outlook, both going to be expanding at similar times. Dimaga slightly ahead, but his worker count much smaller, just because you can chrono boost the Nexus way better than you can build drones off of a single layer when you are building lots of lings and lots of roaches. Armies very similar in size. Protoss has a slight advantage, but really creep and hatchery proximity more than makes up for that difference. Dimaga actually moving out with those roaches. His opponent doesn't have any stalkers, doesn't have any immortals, but sentries just about as terrifying. And with some nice force fields, TT1 could do some pretty serious damage to those roaches. It all comes down to micro, getting another gateway. That is the 4th gateway with the expansion. Also more pylons, some nice wall off there, keeping the Zerglings from getting in too easily. And here it is, small skirmish. I can't imagine Dimaga getting more than a zealot or 2. I don't see it being especially effective. There's the force fields, lots of roaches trapped. And Dimaga not going to get quite as many kills as he wanted, I think. Units lost, we are tied. He's refusing to pull away, really wants that one zealot, and he might get it. He does not get it, does retreat, and in the end the Protoss player wins that encounter by a small margin. No, I take it back, the roaches are doubling back. Good aggression by Dimaga. Looks like he's going to get this stalker just about. It does go down, and there is one very weak zealot here if he follows up, but there are a lot of sentries. This is a bit dangerous for Dimaga. He is going to lose some more roaches in that recklessness, but he gets the zealots. No speed, so they're easy to kite. And TT1 reeling a bit. He is in a nice position, does have a fairly good army, does have the expansion, does have a worker lead, and I think that is really what's going well for him right now. Dimaga playing very aggressively, really pumping out those roaches and not droning. So he's playing extremely aggressively, and if he does not break the Protoss player, he's going to be in a serious amount of trouble. He is getting burrowed roaches. That will be a nice trick. And no scouting, so this is a good chance for Dimaga to do some serious damage. Does snipe some of the sentries, and there it is. They are burrowed, but they're not moving quite yet. Up they come. Snipe, almost snipe one zealot, but he loses a roach in the exchange. I think he's trying to snipe out these sentries, popping in and out, enjoying that regen while they're underground. But the Stalker's in pretty good position, so able to take down a roach every time he pops. So Dimaga actually losing this battle by popping in and out like this. And looks like he's content to stay. There's the upgrade. They can now move, maybe pull out, or go into the base, but the cannons are on the way up. See what Dimaga does. He pops up, tries to snipe, does not get this cannon, and these roaches will not be able to enjoy their harassment much longer. They are going to pull out. Maybe go for one more stalker. Why not? Go for it, Dimaga. One more stalker. Come on. Okay, he's going for some cannons. Going to try and take out those cannons. Looks like he's going to lose. One roach does go down. 2 roaches go down. So this harassment really not being effective. And he hasn't been droning especially well. Very, very nice job by TT1. And just remaining very patient, very vigilant, continuing to produce units. No upgrades, however, but he will be able to get them fairly soon. Certainly can't afford them. And tons of cannons. These tricky burrowing roaches will no longer be effective. Dimaga wants that pylon, won't get it. And burrows, I think he's going to pull out now. He's grabbing that 3rd expansion, but he is badly behind. He was not droning for a great period there. So even though units lost are in Dimaga's favor, he was behind in drones for the majority of that exchange. So TT1 was harvesting a lot in the meanwhile. He also has a much more fortified position than he did before, grabbing that box facility, probably going to transition into Colossus. And no other tech to speak of. Does have that warp gate tech now, however. Of course, you notice that because units were warping in. And those roaches look like they're just going to sit tight. I can't imagine what more harassment they could accomplish. They're just so outnumbered in there, and they are falling back. So Dimaga doing fairly well. Strictly speaking, he is the more aggressive player, but he really did not succeed in really doing damage to the Protoss player. Only irritated him, really. And both players going to need to do something fairly soon if they want to get the advantage. It is just a macro war at this point in time. no one really has a distinctive advantage. His third base is helpful. The rocks here are not. Dimaga's creep spread, also not all it could be at this point in time. He is using overlords to help, but his queens haven't been pushing the creep. So it's going to be hard for him to assault this position. Very difficult, in fact, for him to assault this position because of these cannons, because of this nice wall off. And TTOne will be able to grab a third base fairly soon if he wishes. You'll see he is up to 54 harvesters, still ahead of Dimaga, and he will be able to grab a third base if he so chooses. Dimaga now bringing down those circle rocks, still not connecting it with creep, and just not droning as much as he really needs to. He is still heavy in the roaches. He is getting speedlings, is getting zerglings, and that will help with a more diverse combination from the Protoss player. But Zealots, Immortals, possibly Colossus, a very frightening unit composition, and the burrow-moving roaches just aren't going to do the trick unless the Protoss player moves out, puts himself in a bad position. And speaking of which, here he comes. He does have +1 attack, +1 armor on the way. TTOne throwing up an advanced pylon. I imagine he'll add a few more. Checking those towers real quick. Dimaga's creep, again, not as far forward as it should be at this point in time. If it was a little bit further, he would have far more advanced warning. Looks like TTOne is just clearing out the rocks for the time being. I do want to point out, however, that Dimaga has used this time to reach for hive tech. He is getting those adrenal glands for extremely potent zerglings. We don't have any melee upgrades, however, which is unfortunate. And he is grabbing that Ultralisk Cavern. So if Dimaga can hold off, he should be okay. But the unit discrepancy is just so huge right now. He is behind slightly in workers, but still about a 10 supply difference and a massive cost. And Zerglings just aren't going to cut it without an amazing surround. There are sentries to mitigate it. Tons of stalkers with +1 attack, and those Immortals are just going to make mincemeat out of those roaches. So Dimaga really going to need to pump a ton of units. 8 lings really not going to be enough, but he is getting level 2 carapace, so I guess that's helpful. And TT1, if he just doesn't attack soon, he will give his opponent an opportunity to catch up. You see already there's the chitinous plating, so he's getting ready for that Ultralisk transition. Ultralisk's so good against a composition like this. Sentry's totally useless, and TT1 is going to get in on this base. Dimaga is willing to engage. Tons of force fields going down, and those lings totally corralled, unable to engage. More force fields delaying, and the Zealots are happy to skirmish with these lings. More of attack from the back, but it looks like Dimaga's army is completely destroyed in this encounter. The lings never able to get past the Zealots, and this expansion is as good as lost. Do we have Ultralisks in time? 6 Ultralisks on the way. The roaches are still alive, so Dimaga does have a hope. He's only lost the base. TT1 willing to fall back. This creep was stopped. It's not spreading any longer, so TT1 might be content to fall back with that little victory. He does have a third base, has the gold, and if you have an economic advantage on the Zerg player, that's always a good sign. Very lopsided armies, but those Ultralisks could swing things in Dimaga's favor. The one problem is that this is running dry, and he does need a third base desperately, and it's just quite a ways away from getting that. TT1 still playing conservatively, not willing to step in onto that creep. These roaches really just looking around, not doing much of anything, and still lots of Immortals. So TT1 must be anticipating an Ultralisk play from Dimaga. He has been going Ultralisks a lot lately, and Immortals are just such a good counter against Ultralisks. 50 damage, 55 damage now with the upgrade is a heck of a lot against an Ultralisk. Makes very short work of them. And Dimaga, it's really do or die at this point in time. He really needs this base, and unfortunately does not have the counters he needs. I don't really know what the counter to this would be. Maybe a ton of Mutalisks, but great unit composition from the Protoss player. Going to deny this expansion. Dimaga forced to engage, and I don't see this going any way but a complete slaughter. Sure enough, we're losing the Ultralisks. They have done a lot of damage, killing several Immortals, several Stalkers. Very, very effective use of those Ultralisks, getting them here on the side of the Protoss force, but in the end, it all comes down to numbers. Dimaga's force is cleaned up, and if TT1 presses in right now, doesn't even matter. Dimaga calls the GG. TT1 stays alive. He survives Games 2, and we're moving on to Game 3. Only one player can advance, so tune in right away for Game 3. And until then, have a good one.